Welcome to Monday's TimesCast. On the West Bank, Israel resumes building. Ethan Bronner reports on Israeli and Palestinian frustrations as the settlement freeze expires.
There remains no agreement at the moment between the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government.
And from the science desk, how coyotes are thriving.
They'll move into any place where they see an opportunity.
As Israeli concrete flows in the West Bank, the Times Jerusalem bureau chief visits the political front lines and reports from behind the scenes.
This is Ethan Bronner for the New York Times. We're here in Kiryat Netafim, which is a small settlement of about 180 families. One of the reasons the settlers came here today to pour concrete for a new kindergarten is to say to the government, we're going to build across the West Bank what they call Judea and Samaria.
From this stage, I speak to Hussein Obama. The land of Israel belongs to the Israeli people.
There remains no agreement at the moment between the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government in terms of a deal to move forward. The Israelis have said they're not going to extend a 10-month freeze. The Palestinian Authority has said they're not going to continue to talk unless there's an extension of the freeze, and that's where the two have been butting heads.
First, I would like to tell to my fellow brothers and sisters, the settlers who live in the communities in Judea and Samaria, that I ask for their forgiveness today. That for the last 10 months, we treated them like second-class citizens.
In another part of the West Bank, without the media frenzy and the speeches, I met a Palestinian working construction on another settlement.
We could be optimistic and say there might be hope. But unfortunately, there hasn't been any progress in the negotiations.
Pessimism about the negotiations is the message I heard throughout the day.
I don't think there will be a deal with the Palestinians. I don't see
a deal?
I don't see a viable partner today among the Palestinians. I think it is not reliable to say that we will have a peace accord within a year. It is a wishful thinking, and I'm facing reality as it is.
But do you want a deal in a year?
No. I think whoever thinks that he can come and within a year finish the conflict, he is not connected to the reality.
That's your prime minister.
Whoever is doing it is not connected to the reality.
So, Ian, what's happening now with the peace negotiations?
Well, they're sort of hanging in the balance right now. President Abbas, the Palestinian leader, had threatened to walk out of negotiations if the moratorium ended and building began in settlements in the West Bank. He decided to delay that for a week as the diplomats, especially from the United States, try to put together some kind of package to keep the talks going. Most people seem to think that that is going toward some kind of under-the-cover deal where most building will stop. They won't say that the moratorium is ended, but it's enough to keep the Palestinians happy and the Israelis happy enough to keep the talks going. And in reality, that's what's been going on. There has been sort of low-level building going on in settlements, I gather mostly the ones that are going to be inside Israel if any peace deal is reached.
And finally, Jim Gorman and Henry Fountain on the tenacity of the coyote.
So Jim, we have a story this week in Science Times about coyotes, right?
Yes, coyotes are, of course, these absolutely amazing animals. I mean, they have survived everything. People have hunted them, shot them, trapped them, and their numbers just continue to increase. And they've moved into a lot of different environments, much more over even the past 10 years than they had before. And sometimes there can be a problem, because as they move into our area, they conflict with us. There have even been some attacks on children in Westchester near New York City.
So why are there so many of these coyotes around? There seem to be more than there used to be.
I think there's definitely been an increase in the east, and one of the reasons is that over a long historical time, I think, wolves were wiped out in the east, so there's no competition there. And you've got a lot of suburban areas where you have edge environments. I think coyotes are really so adaptable that they'll move into any place where they see an opportunity. And there's also a difference between some of the western coyotes, where they're called coyotes, by the way, and in the east, where for some reason we call them coyotes.
What's the difference?
The ones in the east are bigger, and people have noticed that and sometimes have almost confused them, thought maybe wolves were coming back. Well, it turns out there are a couple papers this year that were published, and some scientists used DNA to show that, in fact, eastern coyotes do have some wolf DNA.
But coyotes are pretty mysterious. I mean, it's pretty rare that we actually see one.
It's very hard to see them. There are very few photos of them, and they're actually remarkably intelligent and remarkably successful.
Join us again tomorrow for another edition of TimesCast.